Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam. Good morning. Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Today is Thursday, December 14th, 2023. And I'm saying that with confidence because the last couple of days I've messed up the day or the date. And so I looked and made sure Thursday, December 14th, 2023. As a matter of fact, it's 9:05 a.m. Listen, we are here this morning to talk wellness, health, wellness, and social justice. I have two guests with me that move in this space. One is local here at the Institute for Health Professions and also out of DC as well. And so we're going to bring them in a couple of seconds. I wanted to take pause for a second and just mention I have guests today, so I'm not going to go too deep into this, but we wanted to ask you to keep prayers for the Tony family. Dorcas Tony transitioned yesterday. She was like an aunt to me. She is the biological aunt of one of my nephews, a icon in this city at Chez Vu's Rollaway, and just impact with the Village Connection and just advocacy. That place, Chez Vu's roller skating rink, provided a safe haven. And I'm going to shut up because we have guests today. And so we're going to get ready to bring them in. But it's so appropriate this time of year. Is so interesting. We're in the holidays, and we often talk about mental health, and we talk about being well, and even our physicality is a part of that. And one of my guests, I believe, moves in the space of physical therapy. If not, they'll correct it and get me together in a couple of seconds. But I want to shout out Ian again for making this connection for us, Ian Carby. We're looking to get him on soon. And so we're excited about that. But listen, without further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Keshri to the stage, and also Dr. Valerie Rucker-Bussey. And you notice I pause with Dr. Keshri's name because I believe in right pronunciation. And so Dr. Keshri Naidu.
Perfection, Jimmy.
I'm well this morning. Good morning to both of you. Thank you both for being here. Thank you for being willing to come in and talk about this correlation between health, wellness, and social justice. It's implied often on this platform, but to clearly articulate it and dig deep into this topic, I'm excited to have both of you here. And so, Dr. Keshri, if you could please introduce yourself, say good morning to the folks, and tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey. And then we'll have Dr. Valerie as well share her journey, and then we'll get right into this conversation.
Sounds good. Thank you, Jimmy. Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be here. I'm Dr. Keshri Naidu. I'm the interim chair, and I'm an associate professor at the MGH Institute of Health Professions. And I am a physical therapist, as Jimmy identified in the intro. And I'm also the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Physical Therapy Education. And at the Institute, I teach orthopedics, which folks might expect in a physical therapy program, but I also lead the social justice and health equity cross-curricular thread, which I'm excited to share more about today.
Repeat that again. There's a what? IHP or what?
A social justice and health equity cross-curricular thread in our DPT program.
And DPT is Doctorate of Physical Therapy.
Correct.
DNR, DRN, DR. Oh God. Anyway,
I think you're
DNP. Yes. ABS. And
APSN. Very good,
and
Jimmy.
APS. Listen, I used to do I was telling the guests I used to do prerequisites at institutes of health profession, and so I remember a few things. Dr. Valerie, please say good morning, introduce yourself to the folks, and then we're going to get into a little bit of your story because I think it's important for the audience to know what drives you and a part of your why. So right after Dr. Valerie, Dr. Keshri will come back right to you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Valerie Rucker-Bussey. I am also a physical therapist, as Jimmy alluded to in the beginning. I am the founder and CEO of Priority One Wellness, which is a mobile healing studio that focuses on providing physical therapy, yoga, Reiki, and breath work to individuals and organizations. Through that, I work with various organizations, and that's how I'm affiliated with Ian through a program called the Organizing Accelerator. I'm also an adjunct professor at both GW, George Washington University, as well as MGH Institute of Health Professions.
I am excited to have both of you here. And actually, I'm going to reverse. Dr. Valerie, I'm going to come back to you and ask you to start this segment. What's your why? What is the correlation of the wellness work that you do in social justice? I've mentioned that it's sort of implied here on the platform, but to have both of you here to clearly articulate the correlation, the work that's being done, what it does for our health, the stress that it can often bring. And so how do we handle that? And different components of physical therapy that can help our wellness. And so that's sort of the layout for today's agenda. So before we get into that deeply, Dr. Val, if you don't mind, we good BFFs. Dr. Val, what's your why? Why this correlation for you between your field of wellness and then really moving it through a lens of social justice?
Ooh, okay. That's a very great question. My why? Well, first of all, as a Black woman navigating being a healthcare provider and navigating the healthcare field from that lens, I have really seen a lot of individuals in my community, especially when working in large hospital-based outpatient clinics. I've seen a lot of disparities and when I say disparities, I mean things that are structural, things that are policy based that affect people in my community and their health. And so I was working with individuals at a hospital outpatient clinic, and at that clinic, we noticed that there was a lot of chronic pain. So when I say chronic pain, I mean pain that people have had for a very long period of time. And some colleagues of mine and I decided to create an integrative medicine program, which consisted of neuropsychology, occupational therapy, and physical therapy. We also, though, through that provided different modalities such as yoga. And that's how I became a yoga instructor, was through that program. And then when I started going through my yoga teacher training at Embrace Yoga DC here in Washington, DC, I noticed a lot of parallels between the wellness and the well-being and the meditation and things that I was learning in that training program, which correlated to how I wanted to treat my clients, my patients in the physical therapy space. So my why just really stemmed from experiential learning and really just trying to find ways to promote overall healing and holistic healing. And then I designed my business through that lens, but I also wanted to promote change on a systemic level, because I think it starts with an individual thought and feeling, but we can only get so far if structures and systems are still oppressing and providing barriers. So I wanted to be able to speak on a larger platform, and therefore I created my business to be able to do that, to be able to partner with different organizations and get the message across that we really have to focus on social justice and making sure that everyone has access to affordable and quality care.
Yes. This is something that is a tenet in the Java Cafe. And so, Dr. Keshri, what's your why? What drives you, and to go to such a level within healthcare? Both of you are women of color, and it's very interesting. Dr. Val, you talked about systemic structures. I worked in the medical industry in a fellowship program after IHP, and been in medicine for some years, children's ER, whatnot, Brigham and Women's, pulmonary critical care. So I've seen some of the things that go on even in trainings. What is your why that caused you to still keep going, still keep pushing to get to the level to where you are, to become this interim chair and also the editor? If folks don't know in medicine, if you're the editor, if you're the editor of such a magazine, such a publication, it's major. And so with all of that, what's your why?
So my why stems from growing up in South Africa. I grew up during the apartheid era. I went to the University of Cape Town to study physiotherapy just after Nelson Mandela had been elected president. And I practiced in South Africa for 3 years. And you can imagine that after the apartheid era, the disparities in health, millions of people who didn't have access to healthcare. And you have this healthcare system that's trying to provide. And it was, as a new graduate, it was overwhelming and heartbreaking. And when I moved to the US to come to school at the MGH Institute, I don't know what I was expecting in the rest of the world, but I wasn't expecting such health disparities in these high income countries, right? And so that's predominantly my why for the work that I do, is that there's no reason for it. We should all have access to healthcare. We should all have the ability to have the health and wellness to live the lives we want to live. And so that's certainly what infused my practice, but it motivated me to go into health professions education, because I know that in my lifetime, I'm not going to see health equity achieved, right? But I know that if I educate the Dr. Vals and the Dr. Ians, that they're the next generation of leaders, and that we can have generational goals. We can say, next step, these folks will get us there.
So, okay. I told you all in the beginning, we're going to go off of your answers and energy. I had the pleasure this week to be on a call with NIH, and they're talking about, and it's funny, Dr. Val, you were talking about chronic pain. Some of the study that's going on is talking about the disparities around, quick prescribing of opioids or not listening to the patients and things like that. And one of the thoughts that's been in my mind, and I would love both of your opinions on this if we could deviate for a couple of seconds, post George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, in a trainee environment, and I mean, this is actually within topic. Do you feel that the what's going on in the world, in the demands for social justice, is coming in with the trainees and the students that are now going to be our next generation of NPs and PAs and admins that check people in? Because they're all part of the wonderful system. Dr. Keshri, I would love to just get when you talked about that, ensuring that your experience as a professor is informing the next generation of providers. Should we be hopeful about health equity with this next generation of trainees?
I am hopeful. I certainly, when I think about our students and our graduates at the Institute of Health Professions, I feel very hopeful, because I know I'm going to be a consumer of the healthcare system, and these folks are going to be treating me. But when you asked about being an editor-in-chief of a journal, that was a driver, Jimmy, because I said, yes, post George Floyd, the Black Lives Matter movement, there's this drive, right, to infuse this into health professions education. But I don't want it to be something that's trendy and people are like, yes, we checked this box and we had a DEI mission statement and then nothing moved forward. I said, if I could be an editor of a journal, then I could have a strong influence on what's published about PT education, and I could continue this forward momentum about having a social justice dialogue in PT education. And then also as an editor-in-chief, you have influence over the editorial board, and they serve for 3 to 6 years. And so I'm always thinking about what's the long-term impact beyond what I do. I'm always thinking about who's next, who's coming up next.
Yes, Dr. Val, your a position or opinion on that as far as social justice coming in with these new set of trainees. Are you seeing an impact, and are you hopeful in reference? And I want to be clear, I'm asking hopeful in reference to the lens of treating people, especially the most marginalized populations, with equity. Where do you think we are?
I am hopeful. I really am. I have to be, right? Because the alternative is that to disparage and to burn continue. You know? But I will say I'm hopeful because through the kind of, as you mentioned, post COVID, the pandemic, George Floyd era, there were all of these DEI initiatives. And while I am disheartened by the amount of lack of care that is still there after all of that excitement happened, you know, that kind of died down. But what I will say is that it encouraged institutions to provide diverse populations of healthcare providers. So now we've got representation, and representation is really a key factor in receiving healthcare in a way that maybe doesn't have as many biases baked into it. So I've noticed that as I've navigated the healthcare system as a new mother, I really found that the individuals that I worked with who looked like me really cared for me in a way that I can't express, was so helpful to my well-being. And I think that as we have seen in the last few years, there's been a push to have more and more individuals of color in different spaces, and that really matters.
That space of you being a woman and a woman of color as an editor, how many colleagues do you have at that level that look like you? Y'all got me excited, Jesus. I'm sorry. Eve's probably somewhere. Okay, James, just. But no, it's just there's so much to unpack here. But I'll withdraw that question for now and go back to you, Dr. Keshri. Based on what we just talked about, what does health and wellness look like through your lens?
And this is something that I ask the physical therapist student when they come in day one for orientation. What does health and wellness mean to you? Okay. And they have such beautiful things that they say, this understanding of health, that it's not just physical, it's mental, it's spiritual, that it's this opportunity to live long and to live well, and that people can thrive and strive. But then when we come up with this definition, then I show them some of the stats in the United States, right? If we look at life expectancy in the US, we know that there's a big difference between non-Hispanic whites and non-Hispanic Blacks. So, you know, 6-year difference in life expectancy.
Let's talk of it, bring it a little back. I don't know if you saw the report from the Health Commission, but right here in Boston, about 23 year from Nubian Square, Dudley, to Back Bay. So even more so of a disparity.
Absolutely. Then we talk about the mortality of birthing persons in the United States. So first of all, in the United States, compared to other high-income countries, more than double. But then we break it down by race and ethnicity, and we see 3 times higher for Black birthing persons. And I ask the students, is this freedom? This is not freedom. This is why we have a social justice and health equity thread. That's why it's so closely tied to physical therapy. It doesn't seem obvious in the beginning, but it's so key to what we do.
One of the things, I'm going to come back to you, Dr. Val. One of the things that's standing out in my mind when we talk about PT is a lot of the disparities that one of the major ways that health disparities, one of the major ways that discrimination happens in the healthcare industry is against larger women of color.
Mhm.
And that, for some reason, I can't let go of the thought in my head in the space of PT, because I know that that's probably one of the major places that you're probably trying to address when you have someone that's been classified or diagnosed with obesity. It's a little interesting getting them in to a regimen of physical therapy. And so it's so refreshing to know that someone like you is in this vein, ensuring that that lens is there to inform how they entreat their patients. Dr. Val, your perspective on health, based on what we talked about a few minutes ago, what does health and wellness look like for you in reference to the most marginalized communities?
Hmm. That's a really great question. I have to first note that, when you speak about individuals with larger body types who are of color, particularly Black women, but also of any minoritized population, I have to talk about the fact that we use different measurements like BMI
Yeah.
to categorize these individuals, but that in and of itself is a racist tool to categorize different body types. And so when I see that in my practice as a physical therapist, and when the recommendation from physicians is, well, if you lose weight, then you'll have no pain. I have to dismantle that first and foremost for my patients who have that recommendation given to them, and that's where we start, right? But when I think about health and wellness, particularly in the physical therapy realm, it's exactly what Dr. Keshri was alluding to was, you really have to think about the whole person, and it's a spiritual, it's a mental, it's all of that on top of the physical. And I think all of that also informs the physical body. I'm of the mindset, if we are having a hard time paying bills, if we're having a hard time feeding ourselves, what does that do to our bodies, right? Well, first it does something to our mental state. It first does something to our emotional state, our spiritual state. We might hold ourselves in a particular way because we're feeling low energy or a little bit, down and out about situations that are oppressed upon us. And so I feel like that first and foremost can really highlight our physical ailments that we've got going on. So I think health and wellness in general is more than what we see on the outside, and more than even what people are able to verbalize to us. And so our role as physical therapists is to dig deeper, to ask the questions, motivationally interview our patients to figure out what is actually going on behind all of the things that you're showing up for me in this short amount of time about.
I'm going to allow both of you to sort of freely respond to anything either both of you have said or questions that I have posed before we move on to the next segment. Dr. Keshri, any response to what Dr. Val said? Or Dr. Val, was there anything that you wanted to build upon that Dr. Keshri said earlier?
So I think what Val is talking about this collaborative relationship with the patient, highlights that we don't just treat everyone the same, right? Like the three of us could walk into a PT clinic tomorrow. Low back pain is one of the most common diagnoses that PTs treat.
Hold on. What's the term when you get triage? Active lower back pain. Go ahead.
But the three of us are walking in there with these unique life experiences and identities that inform how we're having this experience. So what Val is talking about in terms of listening to the patient, hearing the story, and then tailoring your intervention for that patient is key to having optimal health outcomes. But the other piece that I want to highlight is that the patient is not a passive recipient. The patient is actively involved in this relationship with the provider. And if we want to diversify the healthcare workforce so that somebody can walk into a PT clinic and be treated by Dr. Val because there's racial concordance and there's trust already.
Hold on. I just racial concordance. We going back to that.
if somebody could walk into a clinic and be able to pick a provider who they immediately feel trust, because there has been mistrust and mistreatment of people of color in the healthcare system, that is so powerful for health outcomes. So that's my other why.
Okay. Dr. Val, any response there? And then I want to get back to this racial concordance.
Let's flow on the racial concordance. I think that's good.
So I've never heard that term. And what that means is basically brother and sis, we identify. To put it in very simple layman's terms. I've never heard anyone frame it like, and I've had a lot of folks on here from the medical industry. Racial concordance. Let's dive into Dr. Keshri, you introduced it, and Dr. Val, you jump back in on. So we'll let you talk a little bit more about that. And Dr. Val, I want to hear your thoughts on that. Why is that so important when it comes to physical therapy? Why is that so important when it comes to the person that's checking you in? Why is it so important when the person that's cleaning your room, that's an inpatient?
So what we hear from patients is that persons of color have notoriously had poor experiences in the healthcare system, that they feel like they have to conjure whiteness to get good care, right? That you have to behave in a certain way in order to try to get equitable care. Versus, we know that for patients who are culturally and linguistically diverse, who speak English as a second language, that language concordance makes a huge difference in somebody's understanding of your symptoms, of your pain, of diagnosing you correctly, getting you the appropriate treatment, medication, intervention that you need. So having a healthcare workforce that looks and sounds like the patient population that it's treating is going to be one of the key steps towards achieving health equity. Having said that, I'm not putting white providers off the hook and saying that every patient of color needs to go to a provider of color. I think we can all do better in terms of our caring for patients who are not the same race and ethnicity of us. But I think that the racial concordance piece is key.
Dr. Val.
Yeah, I mean, exactly what Keshi said. And I think that the racial concordance piece is absolutely key, even just for the simple fact of allowing the patient to be able to decide, allowing the patient to have that choice to say, hey, yeah, I would rather have someone who, like you said, bro, sis, you like me, you know, that kind of thing.
Can you just park there for 1 second too, and let providers know that that does not mean that they're, and I'm afraid to use this term, not anti-racist, reverse. I'm not even going to put the things that Dr. pointed her hand, so I know I said something right. Because of all the disparities, and we're doing okay. I as a whole, you know, we got a canyon for improvement in the medical industry. But can you just talk to the fact that that does not mean that there's just so much to unpack, because the point that Dr. Keshri said about not letting white colleagues off the hook and whatnot, someone wanting to talk to, first of all, gender, if you want to talk to another woman, and then two, there is just this belief when you have racial concordance, there's an identification, there's a kindredness, there's a girl, you get it.
Right. So there are things within communities that go unsaid. There are things that are within communities that don't even necessarily need to be elaborated on. But I think some of the things that Keshri was saying was like, people feel like they have to put on, sometimes people feel like they have to put on this whiteness, or they have to put on this front, and they might even feel like they have to over explain themselves. And imagine yourself in pain or dealing with something related to your health, and then you feel like you have to over explain yourself, or you feel like you have to, you know, go out of your way to sound a certain way or present a certain way, or read up on a bunch of facts so that you can advocate for yourself, because you are going in there guns blazing, feeling like someone's not going to listen to you.
Yep.
You know, maybe when you find someone with racial concordance, with language concordance, with gender concordance, maybe when you find that individual, that provider, maybe you don't necessarily have to go in there guns blazing, and then you can actually focus on your health.
Oh God. I just wondered. Ian and a couple of folks are probably sitting in the background like James is about to pop. All right. Let me back up a little bit. Dr. Kesh, I know you.
Can I
Go ahead.
jump in? Yeah.
Go.
Because I think when we start talking about things like racial concordance and how meaningful it is for a patient from a minoritized or marginalized background to be treated by somebody who looks like them or to have the option, I think then sometimes the counter argument can be like, oh, then surely a white patient should have the opportunity to say, I only want a white provider, right? So I do want us to be cautious that where it's coming from, right? It's not coming from a place of hatred, where sometimes not wanting to be treated by a healthcare provider of color comes from. I don't want this person touching me. That when we're talking about somebody requesting a specific provider, many healthcare institutions have policies and procedures that you follow. And if it's reasonable request, and if it's ethical, and if there's a reason that the patient is telling the story because I was treated by someone this way, and this is why I want Dr. Val this time, then I think, you know, we're very logically going through a system of assigning a healthcare provider. It's not coming from a place of hatred.
Got you.
That's very key.
I go ahead, Dr. Val.
No. I was just tagging in and saying that is very key. I agree with everything that Kesha just said.
I am this is just encouraging. My brain is on overload because I mentioned to you all there's the Health Equity Compact. There's the long COVID BCRC group that I'm working with that's working with NIH. There's Dr. Ronke Pedersen that is working with NIH around looking at protocols in research and whatnot around how patients are treated around, I believe, long-term either pain management or chronic diagnosis when you have diabetes and you're on insulin and stuff, you know, for like the rest of your life. There is so much to unpack in reference to getting people to a point where they want to go into the healthcare system. They're treated, I don't even know fairly is the word. They're treated justly. Okay, I got that agreement there. Treated justly for the purpose of the improvement of the quality of life. That's what all of this, you know, is about. And so as we get ready to you know, sort of wrap up, and Miss Teresa, I was thinking about you, and I'm going to, how do I do this? Because the larger comments, they will hide your face. But Miss Teresa is saying, and I'm familiar with her story, she has an orthopedic issue. And listen, I have been told by 3 different Caucasian surgeons that I am in need of a bilateral, which means both total knee replacements, but they will not do it until my BMI is lowered. How can I do this if I can't walk? The only surgeon that will help me is a Black surgeon in New York. Why? And I know she's not looking for an exact, you know, why, but I was thinking about her when we were talking about this because we shout out to MGH. One of the MGH doctors has, you know, kind of advised and helped counsel her. That's one of the things that I thought about when he was talking about PT, that our women who are classified as obese by that BMI, which is basically a European designed that doesn't consider the curves and the wonderfulness of you know, the women of color and not of color bodies as well. Y'all just really have me way out there. So I'm going to try to bring myself back. Dr. Val, is there anything that we missed that you wanted to communicate? There's, you know, how physical therapy connects to community health. Maybe we can talk also about are there a couple of ways that folks can do sort of home remedy physical therapy to let folks leave with some resources? Because all this wonderful talking in agreement, we're preaching to the choir, but I want folks to leave with some resources. So how can they apply PT that helps when they come in maybe from a doctor's visit or, an experience? Late train, what is it? A couple of things that maybe folks can do at home to kind of help their bodies and also maybe de-stress.
Sure. I love the concept of intuitive movement, and I can't say that I coined that phrase at all, but that is a phrase or a term that is based off of intuitive eating, and I won't go too far into that, but basically it's about moving in a way that fits you and fits your body, and makes you feel good. And so I actually give a talk on this. Annually, but I discussed the topic of just kind of being within yourself and knowing what your body needs. So, intuitively, if we're sitting down for a long period of time, maybe we stretch, maybe we lean backwards, or maybe we kind of move our head and things like that. Listen to your body, because that's your body saying, okay, you've been in this position for a little while. I feel like I need to move in the opposite direction. And our bodies will tell us exactly what we need. Sometimes when we feel antsy or fidgety, that's our body saying, maybe we need to get up and move around a little bit. Maybe we need to take a lap around the house or a lap around the neighborhood. And so, but I also, in that same vein, want people to know when their body might need a little bit of rest, right? So when we're about to have a cold or something like that, our bodies kind of get a little tired, right? So maybe that's some time that our bodies need a little bit of rest. Physical therapy is all about movement. It's all about addressing individuals' disorders and diseases and conditions with movement-based treatments. And so if I could give anyone advice on how to do physical therapy at home, it would be find a movement that speaks to you. Maybe it's yoga, maybe it is dancing. Maybe you do a 30-second dance party for yourself every 30 minutes at home, something that makes you feel good. Maybe you enjoy bowling, anything, whatever it is. I would say do that movement as best as you can, as much as you can, as often as you can. That's going to impact your overall health. And then see your local physical therapist and, reach out to resources like Java with Jimmy, like with, anybody, right? Shameless plug there. But no, I do think that people, as the more we talk about our health with friends and family and things like that, the more that we can find those tools and those resources that we need.
Dr. Val, thank you. This has just been so good. I feel like I'm just like having to come down a little bit. It just, Dr. Keshri, closing remarks, closing statements. What are some ways that folks can treat themselves at home from a physical therapy standpoint? I like the piece, Dr. Val, about listening to your body. You've been sitting too long, you get that little twitch. You need to get up. Rather than trying to adjust and rather trying to adjust and sit longer, listen to your body. Dr. Keshri.
So even before you try to do the PT at home, I think have this conversation with your doctor about being referred to a physical therapist. Dr. Val said, we're movement specialists. If you're having pain with movement, if you think I could be moving better, talk to your doctor about this. Is physical therapy an option for me? Because we definitely see disparities in who's referred to physical therapy. So that's the one thing, is we want to educate the public to choose PT, right? Before we think about things like medication, opioids, that there's this other option. And then in terms of what we could do at home is think about 10, 20, 30 years from now, what do I want to be able to do? I want to be able to lift my grandkids and put them in a car seat or put them in a high chair. So I need to take care of myself now. And so that means through whatever movement Dr. Val is describing, what feels good to me, what I enjoy doing, but I'm going to make a commitment to be consistent with it so that I can maintain my health and have that long, happy life that I want to have.
I think it's so apropos that, it's about, today is the 14th. We are 17 days out from the first of the year. And the first of the year, everybody, including me, first of the year, I'm going to, this is my regimen and I'm going to start today. And it's funny because I do I will be forced on a yoga mat. Now I don't do yoga, but I know how to stretch a little bit. And the right pain, I've learned how to get on there and do a few stretches a couple of times, and you'll be all right. So thank you for that and I mean, this is not elementary, not the first time I heard it. Listen to your body, but listening to it with the intentionality, like oh God, y'all was so good today. The racial concordance and language concordance, and the fact of the intentionality of saying, listen to your body for the purpose of improving its physicality. So when you get that little twitch or whatever, or it's on one, I have a bad habit of leaning on my left side. I now know I got a little, what do y'all call it? Not a callus or something. When you get the little lump, a trigger point, or no, there's physically a lump on this right side. And so, you know, I talked to my massage therapist yesterday, and he's going to come out and try to work it out. But it just, I know at a certain point, if I get down and I stretch a couple of times, it actually is going to help. But if I do that proactively every morning, maybe I won't have the pain. So it's yeah, everybody here knows I'm on this journey of trying to get better. And but both of you have really inspired someone like me that moves in a space of demanding and calling for health equity. And that trainee piece, in a lot of the conversations I'm in, you do hear a small sentiment of this generation of, you know, if you got somebody that entered medical school after all they went through with the pandemic, and they see everything that goes on, and they're getting ready to get into their, you know, residency and fellowship programs, it'd be very hard not to be touched by life's issues. You look at what's going on in the world right now. I believe that it is informing this next generation of providers, this demand for DEI, you know, as it's become such the trendy word. Please give my best to, I don't know if Pat is still there in the nursing school. Pat, what was her last name?
Pat Reddy?
What is it?
Pat Reddy?
I believe so. She used to say, "Hi, James," like the guy from I can't remember the movie, the guy that wore the mask on his face. "Hi, Clarice," whatever that movie was. Please tell her that James said hello. I'm trying to think who else. Oh God, there was a lot of people there, but I really appreciate both of you coming in and sharing this with us. Please keep us abreast if there's any events or anything that's coming up locally. Dr. Val, share anything out of DC. I have a lot of friends in DC, and I can post it and then say, you know, DMV folks or whatever, go support this or whatever. But you both have been very inspiring today. I'm glad that there are people like you in this space. And so please keep us abreast of things that you're doing. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for this platform to be able to speak on this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to go pay a couple of bills and today's my Friday. Yes. Pay a couple of bills and get ready to get out of here. But thank you both. And we shall definitely, we'll cross paths. I'm sure we'll cross paths soon. I actually want to, I got to remember, let me write it down. I want to connect you both to Dr. Ronke. Just maybe to chat and be aware, because that work that she's doing around, I just really think she's within the MGH system. And so I want to connect you all with her for that NIH thing that she's doing. All right. Thank you. I'm sorry. We just turned, this is not a Zoom. Okay. Y'all have a wonderful day. Happy holidays to both of you. And thank you so much for your time here with us today.
Thank you, Jimmy.
So much.
Listen, folks, if you weren't inspired and then laughing at me with the little energy, when she said racial concordance, Jesus, I'm getting off of here. Ian, thank you, brother. Thank you for this connection. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Silence of the Lambs. Thank you. Y'all had my back. Pat would say, "Hi, James." All right, we're getting off of here, everyone. Today is Friday. Thanks, Ian, so much. Michelle is in the room. Dr. Naidu and Dr. Valerie, muchas gracias. Keep up the excellence in ensuring that all your patients receive health care. So Michelle, thank you for that. Sister Debbie, thank you so much. And Pastor Marion over on LinkedIn, thank you for your professional, medical, and physical, emotional service. Thank you, Pastor Marion. Sharon, though you're at work, good to see you in the room. I appreciate it. Miss Teresa, they something got to be figured out. Because when you said that point, they want me to lose weight, but then I can't walk around. So what? Jesus. Belinda was saying this message is sent. You see that I'm black, but I'm educated black. So, I'm like one of you, like people you work with or who you went to school with, not the ghetto black that you see on TV. So please don't mistreat me. Oh, okay. Folks, today is my Friday. So a few things. Next week, let's let you know what's going on in the Java Cafe. The team told me they're tired of me looking around at the last minute looking for stuff. So next week, so far, we have Yasmin Gay. I don't have the subject. Yasmin Gay is coming in on Monday, the 18th. On Tuesday, you're stuck with just me. On Wednesday, there is no Java with Jimmy in the morning. Don't forget, we're at WGBH for a soulful Java holiday at WGBH at the Boston Public Library. On the 20th, that's on the 20th, and that'll be at 12 noon. And then on the 21st, we are still looking to see what we're doing that day. All right. And then obviously the next week on Christmas Day, I'll probably check in for a few minutes on Christmas Day. Y'all know I do the holidays before I go start cooking. Ian said, I'm sorry you've had such a bad experience with the surgeons and PT so far. I promise there are good ones out there too. Absolutely, Ian. Like you. Good ones out there too. Michelle, that thing. She said racial concordance. Roxanne, hey. You and Miss Teresa in here. Oh, Jesus. Good to see you in the room. Good to see you in the room. There's just so much to unpack. And Michelle, see you at the Soulful Holiday as well. All right, folks, I'm getting off of here. Don't forget on Wednesday, the Soulful Holiday. On Thursday, Wednesday, the Soulful Holiday. On Monday at 9 p.m. for the last episode of Murder in Boston. We will go live, not showing the movie, but go live and have the conversation. This third episode, The Reckoning. And on Wednesday, we will be at WGBH. And on Thursday, speaking of Murder in Boston, on Thursday, did I wind up deleting this? I sure did. Where did I put it? I think it's on the desktop. It's not on the desktop. Where did I put it? Java with Jimmy. There it is. On Thursday, we will be at Roxbury Community College for Murder in Boston, the aftermath. We will speak with the Bennett family, presented by Yard Time Entertainment. Murder in Boston, the aftermath, a interactive question and answer with the Bennett family and focused discussion on mental health, trauma, and wrongful convictions. Dr. Rufus Falk will be there talking with the family. Kurt Foston from the Dropout Summit will be talking with those that have been wrongfully convicted, the pain and trauma and mental health of that. And yours truly will be taking questions from the audience, fielding those for the panelists, and helping facilitate the evening. So please plan on coming out and support this family. Hear directly from the Bennett family. Heard from everybody else. Hear directly from them about the aftermath. Listen, everyone, today is my Friday. We will see you. How could I forget? Saturday. This Saturday, 12 noon, Boston Tech. Show up to support the Dorchester Elite Eagles, national champions, making history the first time, I believe, out of Massachusetts, definitely out of Boston. Let's make sure we plan to come out and support them this Saturday at 12 noon at the Boston Tech Field. There is a parade that begins at 2 p.m. We will meet and go down Peacefield Road, take a right on Norfolk Street, take a left on Talbot Ave, and then end at the Boys and Girls Club in Dorchester. Folks, show up for these young people. We talk about all this stuff going on and our young people, not this and not that. These young people have worked. If you missed the episode on Sunday night, you need to go watch it. Or was it Monday night? You need to go watch it. The program is impactful. National champions. But if you hear what these young men had to say about their experience being involved with the Dorchester Elite Eagles, it's definitely awesome. So plan on going to the parade on Saturday. The information is on all my socials. Have a good weekend, everybody, and we will see you. We're going live on Saturday, so we'll see you around 12 o'clock on Saturday. Also, we may go live for a few minutes tomorrow, but we're going down to the State House tomorrow morning to chat with our governor And so we'll let you know when we're going to broadcast that. We will not be going live for the conversation. We're going to check out the ceremony room there. She has installed some paintings that were made, I believe, of color of artists or reflecting people of color. And so we're going to go check that out with our governor tomorrow. We'll let you know when we're going to broadcast that. Don't forget Saturday, 12 noon, Boston Tech Field. If you don't go to the parade, have your happy self on Norfolk Street or on Talbot Ave, all right, or on Peaceville. Let's line these streets and celebrate these young people. Let's go 6 rows deep into the sidewalk, into the streets to celebrate these young people, all right? Okay, I'm off of here. We'll see you guys on right now, maybe for a few minutes tomorrow from the State House, definitely on Saturday between 12 and about 3 p.m. Have a great weekend, everybody. Peace.